Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. It's Tuesday Thoughts. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us. Pretty busy show because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got MLS Team of the Week. We've got the other matches for Major League Soccer that we didn't get into yesterday when we were talking about Atlanta United and everything else that was on the table, and went through all of the busyness that was going around yesterday. And we had, what else do we have yesterday? Oh, yeah, we had Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game. We had Bart Keeler coming in on Soccer for USPOD, discussing She Believes and reffing down here. And so that's the Monday rundown, which brings us to Tuesday. So once again, all the news that's fit to print, all the stuff we didn't talk about in Major League Soccer that's on the board. And like I said, we got Open Cup, which brings us to our guest at 9:30. Darin Van Tassell dropping by from South Georgia Tormenta to talk Open Cup, to talk League One, to talk about signings, all the stuff. Catching up with Darin as they get ready for their matchup against Savannah Clovers coming up in Open Cup. So we'll talk about the matchups in Open Cup, see if there are any juice boxes that are attached, who might be the next cup set, those kinds of things. So a lot of stuff to get into this morning, and whatever's on your mind. Trust me, whatever's on your mind, we got a lot of space to talk about here. Reminder at 5 o'clock on the network today, doubleheader, as we kind of wind down. You'd think that, spring break might wind things down, but then it doesn't. Badger, yeah, it kind of is a happy spring break, but for soccer teams, they don't stop. Evidence yesterday with what happened. We got a Monday special with our friends at Johnson Gainesville. And Johnson Gainesville hosted the Baylor School out of Chattanooga. And it was one of those rare instances on a Monday. And Baylor is coming back from spring break. Johnson Gainesville and most of the Georgia schools are coming into spring break. So you had this collision, and the Baylor school outside of their region, they play out of state. They want to play the toughest competition around. So you had two top 5 teams in their respective states. Baylor made the trip down to Johnson Gainesville yesterday. Big 4-1 win for the Knights. You heard that on the network with Maddie Cruz and with Jason. So today, we're not done. And we might be chasing the weather a little bit. So 5 and 7 over on the live platform at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. What you can do is you can catch up with all of the other games that you might have missed, but you can also listen live. So we've got all of our stuff archived there, and we've got the games live there. So soccerdownhere.mixler.com. 5 and 7 today. It is Calhoun and Sonoraville. It's our first visit to catch up with the Phoenix at Sonoraville. 5 and 7, and I don't know if they are being prescient because of the anticipated weather for the 7 o'clock match. That traditionally we're used to seeing things either 5:30, 7:30, 6, or 8. 5 and 7 on the Sonoraville campus today. So soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Girls are at 5, boys are at 7. Hopefully the boys match will end before the rain hits, and it's supposed to be pretty bad. So hopefully we'll get both of these matches in, and it is part of another long week for SDH when it comes to live programming, because after that, then Friday, we go to Calhoun and catch up on the girls' side. Wesleyan and Calhoun is on Friday, 4 o'clock on the network, and so we'll be on the air a little ahead of time to let you know what's going on there. But the high school season in spring break for students, not so much so for the student athletes. So soccer on the network today at 5 and 7. Maddie Cruz and I will have the call there. And on Friday, Maddie and I will be in Calhoun for Wesleyan and Calhoun, just the one match, 4 o'clock, just the girls. And we'll be there for that. And then everything gets into Saturday for the She Believes Cup. Jason and Jess calling the U.S. match on 92.9 The Game at 12:30. And then they hit their respective planes and they spirit off to either Charlotte or New York, because they both have night matches that they have to call. Jess has the Revs with Willie P on WFNZ. They call that from Charlotte. And Jason and Mike. Jason will be chasing Mike and Atlanta United, the entire team, and on the 17s that make the trip to Citi Field. So he's going to LaGuardia, or is it JFK? I think it's LaGuardia. He's getting off the plane, the one that's in Queens. Then you step out, you look to your left, you see the stadium right there, you catch an Uber, you go to the stadium. Jason should be there in time for being there during the kickoff show. So that's going to be Pretty friggin' cool. But once again, big Saturday, big week here at SDH with the morning show, with all the high school action that we've got. Playoffs coming up starting on the 16th, actually, because we've got this week and next week, last week of regular season. 16 starts the playoffs. Then it's a 3-week sprint to get you into the finals, and then those will be on the NFHS network. Jason will be calling some of those too. So soccerdenhere.mixlr.com right there. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, on the 280 character app, and on our YouTube channel, that's how you get the live action that we got today, 5 and 7. Calhoun and Sonoraville, big matchup there, and we will have that for you on the network. All right, so let's see who's in. This is where we get to catch up with folks. Morning Ropes, morning Kefsey, morning Jay. That morning to me, and morning Alex. So great to have you guys in as always. Once again, whatever's on your mind is what we're going to be discussing here. Like I said, Darin Van Tassell coming up in about 20 minutes, and we'll talk about Open Cup and Tormenta and League One and stadiums and all those kinds of things. So we'll catch up with Darin, friend of the network, friend of the show, in about 20 minutes. Okay, opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching either on Twitch on the 280 character app or on our YouTubes. And what you can do is you can hit that QR code. You go, you hit that, you go to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You go Soccer Down Here 15 is your checkout code. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. I'm not going to reset our wall clock to 0 yet. I'm going to save that for our other SDH billboard, the Stupidity Down Here billboard, the other SDH billboard. I'm not going to reset that to 0 yet on the show. It will be reset on the show because of what happened in the GA tournament. So we'll talk about that allegedly, and that will be the incident that will reset the clock. Coming up probably in hour number 2. But like I said, all the news of the day, all these kinds of things. Kefsey, I mean, I understand Kefsey wants to bring the rain. I get it. So just look, can we do it after the broadcast? Just after the broadcast tonight. Then the front will come through. Temperatures will cool off. Then the yellow can go away, and our cars can get the Mother Nature-inspired car washes. But just after the matches tonight, let us get off the air in one piece and get home safely, and then we'll be okay. No issues with it. All right. So I don't know how many of you have been, at your new job, and you don't want to step on any toes. You want to kind of get in the gig. You kind of want to sit there and you're like, okay, I'm new here. You keep your head low. I'm trying to learn if my key card works. Is this the lunchroom? Can I bring my own food? Am I supposed to have, the corporate food plan? What floor am I getting off on? What's the easiest way to get to the parking lot? Is there a back way if it's raining outside? All these kinds of things when you're at your new gig. Alex Crows was named the CEO of Ajax a couple weeks ago. And obviously by that setup, you know where I'm going with this. Colin Miller over at The Athletic, before the show came on this morning, brings this piece of news. Ajax have suspended club CEO Alex Crows after he, quote, likely engaged in insider trading, end quote, prior to his appointment in August of 2023. Club released a statement to state, I would hope that a statement states, that Crows has been suspended from his role, quote, with immediate effect, and the club intends to terminate the collaboration permanently. And when did we start putting periods outside of quotation marks to close a quote in a sentence? Ajax said the decision followed external legal advice that after learning that the 49-year-old had purchased over 17,000 shares in the club prior to his appointment on August 2nd, 2023. Insider trading is a criminal offense, buying or selling of stocks based on privileged information. And I would anticipate that you knowing that you're getting a new gig might be akin to insider trading. Kroos only began his work as the club's CEO March 15th. So basically 18 days ago. 18 days ago, guy was hired. He was appointed in August, started 18 days ago, and now has been busted for insider trading allegedly, buying 17,000 shares of Ajax back in probably July at this point. 17,000 shares of Ajax in July before he was appointed CEO in August. Didn't start working until 3 weeks ago. And now he's going to be relieved of his duties post-haste in short order, and however you wish to describe it. Began his work as club CEO March 15th. Michael Van Praag came out with a statement. We'll go to sentence 2. Well, actually, deeply dismayed that it has occurred at Ajax as it is highly detrimental to the club and everyone who holds it dear to them. Sentence 2. Alex Kroos' actions are not in line with what Ajax stands for. The timing of his share purchase, this is once again, this is the chairman of the club supervisory board saying this. Sentence 2. Timing of his share purchase indicates insider trading. Such a violation of the law cannot be tolerated by a publicly listed company, especially when it involves the CEO. After careful consideration, the supervisory board has therefore concluded Alex's position as a director of Ajax is untenable. I want to emphasize that the technical policy will continue with the individuals in place and on the path Ajax was already on with Alex. So Ajax, Alex. I know I'm going to get that confused. Kroos said on Tuesday, I bought every Ajax share myself, and added that Ajax's supervisory board were already aware of his share package in the club and that he provided full disclosure about all relevant assets, including his 42,500 shares in the club. In the period of April 6th to July 26th, I purchased, this is Kroos, not me, Ajax shares in bits and pieces, increasing to 42,000 shares of the total of the 18 1/3 existing Ajax shares. New Year's Eve, 22, he already had 20,000 pieces, purchased another part in the months of April, May, and June. Purchased the last part on July 26, shortly before my appointment on August 2, 2023. Kroos insisted he had, quote, not yet agreed his move to Ajax at that time, but admitted to having a, quote, good feeling about his appointment. He said, quote, I thought it was a positive signal to radiate confidence in the club and to shareholders. Kroos added that to radiate confidence, he bought shares to run financial risks himself, which he described as showing to have, quote, skin in the game, end quote. Another couple of sentences. Kroos added that the Ajax supervisory board advised him on March 29 they no longer had confidence in him, believed he had malicious intent in mind with his purchase of shares on July 26, 2023. Kroos said, I now understand after consultation with my lawyer that I did not make the wisest decision on July 26, 2023 due to the appearance of the situation. Two more sentences. Described his path 18 days prior to the suspension. So that did not go over well with Ajax. And we all know right now how much in trouble Ajax is as a franchise. And so, yeah, you now have a CEO that is probably no longer going to be CEO because of alleged insider trading by the club before you took the gig. You were on the job 18 days. You were appointed. They waited 8 months for whatever reason to have you start. And all of a sudden, they decide that we're not going down the right path. And so it is now time for you to go. And, oh, by the way, hey, look, you purchased a boatload of shares before you were hired. That's insider trading. So you have a club in Ajax right now that is going through serious ish on the field. And If I could spell the word standings, I could tell you how bad it is. But I mean, they've been in a world of hurt in the Eredivisie. And so now you end up with Ajax and a new CEO, and they are in fifth. They are 8 points out of playoff pictures or European places, and they're in a fight from 5 through 7 with our friends from Go Ahead Eagles, but 8 points out of European football behind AZ Alkmaar. So Ajax fifth in the Eredivisie, and they're going to be looking for a new CEO. Lesson here: focus on whether or not your key card works. Just maybe put it in a trust or something. Just saying. So when you start a new gig, kind of keep an eye on things. Just saying. That's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch, on the 280-character app, and on our YouTube channel. Don't forget, when you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into the youth game, youth initiatives, and stuff that they have earmarked as cool. So that's your QR code, SoccerDownHere15. Get you 15% off. 10% goes back into youth games, youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, housekeeping. There's your scarf. And thanks to everybody who has been picking up the scarf so far. That is to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. We're going to do it. I mean, it's not just going to be something when I run out of scarves here in Office HD, we're going to quit. It's going to be something that's going to continue to regenerate. Last country on the planet to start a soccer federation from scratch. We've had the guys on a couple of different times. We talked to one of the coaches from the island, 17 hours ahead. And it was interesting to talk to Justin Wally at 8:30 in the morning his time when it was 3:30 in the afternoon here. But they are building this from scratch, and this is to help them out with any kinds of expenses and promote and all those kinds of things. So that's the scarf. You can DM me, DM the show, email me, email the show, reach out to us on social, on the Discord, what have you. If you want to have it delivered here locally, if you are within the city of Atlanta, which is where the SDH HQ is, we have our friend Abby who can deliver it to you, and it's just $32. If you want it shipped to you from the post office and tracked and all that kind of stuff, it's an extra $5, so $32 and $5. Thanks to our friend Hudson out in Colorado who's picked one up. It is on the way. Thanks to our friends in Texas and California who have purchased. It is on the way because I made a delivery to the post office yesterday. That is the scarf right there. You can go to the website for the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. You get to see Maddie modeling it over from at Silverbacks Park. So that helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, and it helps grow the game. That's why we're doing it. But like I said, when my box is empty, that just means I order more. We're going to continue to do this to help build the program. And it looks like they're going to be back during American football season and going back to Northwest Arkansas and trying to take those next steps, whether it's in futsal or organization, trying to find Marshallese, players of Marshallese descent to continue to build the program, maybe have some friendlies with some of the other smaller nations in this region, in CONCACAF. And so we'll see what happens there. But that's the scarf. Reach out to me. Reach out to the show. You can DM us. You can shoot me the funds, PayPal, Venmo, what have you. We'll figure it out, and I'll get it to you in short order. But that helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. There you go. All right. Darin Van Tassell set to join us in about 5 minutes. If you haven't had the chance, go to the website and catch Maddie's article with Derek Williams. And what we've seen from Derek Williams is that veteran presence that you were looking for that has evolved into a starting gig. Morning, Abby. Starting gig for Derek Williams. And Maddie caught up with Derek after the match on Sunday about what it's been like for him so far, and how the communication goes with him and with Noah Cobb and the learning and getting adjusted to what Gonzalo Pineda wants to do. So soccerdownhere.net. Maddie's interview and Maddie's profile piece on Derek Williams. And you also get to see the photos that the intrepid shooter, Sofia Cupertino, gets to shoot on a home match basis for us. They're gorgeous things. And right there, for those of you who are watching on the video side of things, that is the Sabatime photo that she shot last year that is hanging up here in the office. Absolutely hanging up here in the office. And she's got some great ones. She's got one of Gigi doing La Pantera, looking like Albert Elise, going like this early on. That's probably going to be the next one that gets hung up here in the office. So I think it's going to be one a year. I'm waiting for the one where Gigi is doing Sabatime, and Saba's letting him do it. As long as he keeps scoring, he can have the move. So there you go. SoccerDownHere.net, Maddie's profile of Derek Williams. Very, very cool stuff there over the weekend. And once again, you can go back and listen to the post-game show from last night with Johnson Gainesville and the Baylor School. That is on the app. That is on the network. The game itself is over at our Mixlr site where we archive all of our live stuff as we go forward. After Darin, coming up in short order, I want to talk about Major League Soccer's Team of the Week because there is a glaring omission, and we've mentioned that individual's name. Glaring omission from the Team of the Week in Major League Soccer. And it's you wonder what folks are looking at. You really do. You wonder what folks are looking at in these situations when there are omissions and folks are not on board or not on boards and full screens and things like that. But we'll get into that after we catch up with our numero uno guest and one of our absolute plus ones here on the network. Grand Exalted Poobah of South Georgia Tormenta, Darin Van Tassell. DVT, what's up?
Big morning for me. Anytime you and I get to break bread, have a little coffee on the morning show. Love being here. I'm at training today on the pitch with the guys. So you don't have my camera today. Not that we're secretive, but I'm happy to be outdoors.
Well,
happy outdoors.
Good
morning, John.
Morning. I was going to say, does this mean since you're out there on the training pitch, does that mean that you're actually getting in reps? Or are you just going to leave that to Ian and the guys?
Well, I'm out here every morning. This is part of my break. Right. I get to. Part of my job is being an observer and a leader and another source of input. Not so much on soccer, but just how we're doing. It's early season, big Open Cup match tomorrow with a local team we've never played before. Not sure if we have a rivalry or not, but that's one of the great parts about the Open Cup. We get to find some of those moments.
I was going to say with this, it also speaks to the growth of the game here in the footprint where you're taking on Savannah Clovers, for those who don't know, straight out of NISA. And it is another one of those instances where you get to see two teams who are separated by, maybe 45 minutes on a freeway on I-16, but it is the personification of the growth of the sport, and just so happens to be in an Open Cup where you guys are trying to climb over each other and get to the next round.
I think this is a great celebration of local soccer. That's what the Open Cup does when it presents moments like these. I think that, Nitra and I have been involved in this now for 8-10 years. And I just think about the giants and the shoulders we get to stand on, and all the folks who the last 30, 40 years helped build a culture that permitted pro soccer to come about. So this is a moment to celebrate local soccer and all those folks, those high school coaches, the middle school coaches, college coaches, academy players. And we want to pay homage to that and take the moment to do so.
And since you went ahead and mentioned academy players, you had a big signing yesterday. And once again, that continues to add to the footprint and the influence that you're having down there in South Georgia Tormenta.
Dodge Brooks, we did it at his school yesterday. We've done this one other time. Great fun. His entire senior class was out there. We had local television that went live and then showed it on the local news in the Savannah Hilton Head area. Dodge started with us when he was 8 or 9. I remember him coming to the very first Tormenta game.
Wow.
2016. And to Dodge's credit, the big difference now is not so much that he's just happy to be here, but his pro teammates are getting onto him because they see him as one and the same. It's our fifth academy player we've been able to sign to a pro contract with time. It's one of the things that U.S. Soccer and the NCAA really have the right touch on. which allows us to sign folks in our academy, but not two pro contracts, and they're completely pros. They'll be eligible for selection and playing, but it allows them to either continue to be pros or to not lose their amateur status if they want to go and play collegiately. And that's a big shift. No other sports in the NCAA umbrella can do so.
When you've got someone who comes through the system and he's been there for 8-9 years, you knew him from when he was knee high to being knee high, and to see that continued development, obviously it speaks to what you've been building down there in Statesboro, not just on the academy level, but in all different aspects, whether we're talking League One, growing into League One where you are right now, the W side, the A side, all these different pieces. When it comes to juggling all these different things and making sure that they all grow the same way, to make sure that you're not leaving anyone behind and you can continue to have moments like you have with Dodge. How much of a challenge is that for everybody there in Statesboro to grow simultaneously to make sure that Tormenta on the whole, in that organic sense, is growing as one unit?
I think the challenge that we face is no different than any organization faces. But here's where I think our challenge is even greater. If you think about a classic office culture, right, when people always went to work every day and they're on floors 2, 3, and 4, how'd you keep the folks on second floor, third floor, and the fourth floor all on the same page? Because they maybe didn't see each other quite as much. Our challenge is, I drive yesterday to Hilton Head, where Dodge is a student at Hilton Head Prep. That's an hour and 50 minutes by car, and a third of our academy lives in that area. So we've got a big footprint to do. So just being able to be present, I think, is a challenge. With that being said, it's a fun challenge. It's one that I relish. I like it. I like that we have coaches all over the place. And while the shiny objects is in Statesboro, our future diamonds are in Savannah and Hilton Head and Bluffton and the Low Country of South Carolina and all around this area. And then the ones that we haven't found yet are in Metter and Vidalia and all those things in the 912 area code. That's a fun challenge. We're architects and we're explorers. We're building things and trying to uncover things and blow the proverbial dust off of those areas, and then find the right folks who need to be found. That's a fun mission. I'm not sure ours is any different than any others. It's one of scale. It's one of size. Let's be as present as we can be, and that's when the fun gets to happen. When it works really, really well. The signing of Dodge Brooks to a pro contract is one of those moments. We're going to celebrate it. And, listen, now the time is for Dodge to get on with it. Let's go and get yourself some pro minutes. It's time to go to work.
Get on with it.
Exactly.
Get on with it. So when it comes to sharing of information, I mean, and other franchises who might be taking these same kinds of steps, do those conversations exist? Do you guys share notes? Is it just League Ones? I mean, do you get calls from overseas, from smaller division clubs that sit there and go, hey, how are you guys doing these kinds of things? How much of the growth of the business aspect and the growth of the athletic aspect is shared information? How many conversations? Do you have unlimited international minutes to have these kinds of conversations?
Yes, I have a wonderful cell phone plan that does that. Now, if I leave the country, it's $10 a day, so I have to keep up with it. I think the conversations are high, extremely high in League One. They're quite also high throughout the USL. They're certainly much more frequent between the championship and League One on the pro side, but even on the pre-professional side with League Two and on the academies. I think a lot of people would be surprised just how often they are coming from outside of the United States too. As a league, we've certainly gone out of our way to bring in those kinds of conversations to us collectively. It's a wonderful piece where we can use the power of the central HQ, if you will, for exposure. And I think we're doing some initiatives that are going to bring that even much more to bear here as we build up towards the World Cup. I think that international conversation is one of the real advantages to hosting the World Cup in North America. We're benefiting from it, and we're also benefiting from the leadership we have at the league. There's a lot of trust amongst the League One owners, and we have those conversations week in and week out about structurally how do we all get better.
How's the growth of the stadium and the construction? Where is that standing right now?
You can now park in a parking lot. That's important. That seems like a critical part to get more people in. You have to actually get more cars in. I still say by the end of the year, we'll see steel surrounded all the framing work that's coming up there. But listen, there's still dirt to be moved. That process is a little bit slower on the stadium. On the retail and the commercial side around the stadium, it is going like gangbusters. The Chick-fil-A signs went up yesterday, and the Starbucks opened up 3 weeks ago, and there's a Huey Magoo's. It looks like it's about to open any day. So I think when people who haven't been to a game at Tormenta Stadium in a while or see it, and certainly the viewers on TV can't see that commercial and retail side, when you're on site and you can see it, the vision's really easy to wrap your arms around.
And we've talked about live, work, play, and the ideas that are attached to USL. It's now part of the discussion in the northern suburbs of SDHHQ up in Roswell. Justin Papadakis makes a trip to Roswell. He's a Roswell kid. He grew up in Horseshoe Bend, but he gets to make a home trip. And it looks like USL and Roswell are now in a letter of intent relationship until the end of the calendar year to figure out, okay, 10,000 seat stadium, USLW and USLS would be the anchor tenant. USL Championship would be a part of this as well. So, it's growing in the live, work, play thing in all of these different venues that we're talking about.
More pro soccer is better for all of us. And the most obvious omission that we have in Metro Atlanta in our state is professional women's side. So the Super League is what a home, and it should be in there. And whoever went first to get that franchise is going to be so pleased with it. Clearly, the municipality of Roswell and the mayor and the council see the vision of what a stadium-centered entertainment, live, work, eat, play district can do. USL Championship, USL League One, I'll leave that to the owners in the city. I'm pretty biased. I love that as a League One city more than a championship, but they'll be our league partners, and however they decide to pursue that sort of piece. But we've known, at least who followed soccer in Georgia for as long as we have, clearly U.S. soccer figured out it's a great home base to be in this state. The amateur footprint that is youth soccer in the South, much less Metro Atlanta, is absolutely massive. Mm-hmm. Here we go. Here's the latest example of municipalities and whoever that next ownership group will be named there about how to do it. And I think that's the right path.
So can I ask you an ownership question having to do with qualifications according to the Soccer Federation?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. With that particular idea that is attached to Roswell, Georgia, and the USL, for a first division club, if I understand the U.S. Soccer Federation numbers correctly, that the primary owner has to have at least 35% of the stake, and they have to have and I think 15 million, net worth, at least presented to the table in paperwork. Hey, I'm worth this much. And the group for Division I status has to have a total worth of $25 million in whatever pieces of paper they present to USL. For Division II, it's still 35%. And the total worth of the individuals in the ownership group has to be $20 million. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And that's the same for League One also on what you just said on Division II. So, yeah, those are standards that have to be met. They're pretty listen, I can only speak to the USL. They're pretty rigorously looked at.
Right.
There's an audit that is a part of that every so often. Self-reported every year until you hit the audit every 4 to 5 years. It's definitely a number, and it's part of sanctioning. That's a real one. It's a pretty rigorous one. And because it's so rigorous, John, I think that does bleed into a little bit, since we're in Open Cup season, about the sort of the disbelief amongst a lot of owners when the decision on the sanctioning side was sort of softened a bit as it came to participation in the Open Cup, because most of our for other owners and leagues, because most of our sanctioning stuff is so thorough and so multi-layered. There hasn't we haven't found many places where the sanctioning was softened in the past. But on the financial side, well, I can't speak to Division One. You're pretty spot on.
Okay, so then this is my follow-up to this. If one individual wanted to do in this live, work, play environment in Roswell, and like I said, we kind of workshopped it the day that it was announced, and we're like, okay, where could it fit? And then we had the Mayor Pro Tem of Roswell on, and he's like, no,
I was listening. I was a guest that day,
and
listening.
Yeah, and so I mean, he's like, it's within the city limits of Roswell itself. This is not like a team name in Roswell, and you're in the 40 acres that's available for purchase in Milton right now. It is literally going to be in Roswell, and so we were trying to figure out, okay, where could it be? And I've got an idea, and we'll see if they follow my idea. But if 25 million is supposed to be your marker for Division I status, and 20 million is supposed to be your marker for Division II. So basically, for the USL Championship side for USL, it would be the 20. For USLS, it would be 25. Does that mean that if you are an interested individual and want to do both, you have to have a combined 45? Or can you sit there and say, I'm worth 25. Hey, CCC, I'm good for the other 20. How does that work if you want to do multiple things in multiple divisions? Do you know?
That's a good question. My first answer is I'm not certain, but I don't know, but I'm pretty certain you don't have to double it up.
Okay.
One counts for both.
Okay, because that was the one of the other things that I was wondering about. Because if you're dealing with multiple franchises, multiple divisions, then do you sit there and say, "Hey, I'm good for it," or do you have to add them up? And that was like one of the biggest things that was in my brain after going through all of those soccer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't have to, but I will say this: you better make sure your net worth is intact and together if you're going to do both. Just for your own purpose, which would be sort of probably a bit more important than the sanctioning side. But I think you're right on the sanctioning. I won't have the final word on that. I don't go do the evaluations, but that's my understanding.
Okay. League One, with what's going on right now, early parts of the season. And, once again, Spokane has come out and they're debuting and they've got their shiny new barn and they're making their waves. And One Knox is continuing to do what they do. It was a tough match last time out up there at Regal for Tormenta. When you look at League One coming here into 24, what do you see?
Well, I think we played two of the best teams in the league early on, just from watching and certainly seeing them in person in Knoxville and Madison. Those teams, I think, from a cohesiveness, from an identity standpoint, are a little further along than the rest of us. We will all hurry up to try and catch them in that regard. We're going to have our hands full on League One this weekend with Lexington. It's a very talented team, but has really probably not found their identity just yet.
And they blew up the salary cap in League One, Darin. They blew up the salary cap.
Yeah, we know. And but that means they can find their identity, and we don't want them to find it, on our time.
Wait a week.
But they're not far along. They're super talented. They've got one of our former Tormenta FC legends here, and Azad Liadi, and he'll do well with Cameron Lancaster up top. But they'll figure that out. We'll have second goalkeeper playing because their first one got a red card, so he'll be suspended against us this weekend. But listen, thank goodness we have a short week this week. When you come off of a performance in Knoxville where we were less than impressed with ourselves, you want to play again and you want to play soon. This is the beauty of baseball, by the way. You get to play every day. So if you have a bad game, you're right back in there. Soccer, you wait a week. And so we're happy with our Open Cup game this week. We've got all eyes on that one, and then we will quickly turn it to Lexington and League One. But I think it still holds with League One, and it has from day one. I've heard some commentators call us the Chaos League. I've never liked that phrase. I think we're super talented. I think every team can beat everybody, and I think that might feel chaotic to fans, but chaos sounds a little pejorative to me. But you better keep playing because every game's not in hand until it's over.
Highly competitive. I maintain that League One is one of the crazy, most highly competitive leagues in this hemisphere. One more thing before you go, and thanks for doing this, especially getting ready for practice. And I know that you're probably halfway through it, and Ian's availability is coming up in 2 hours. We'll hear from Ian tomorrow. One of the other things that I wanted to touch base with you about was the bringing to the forefront the Top Soccer program. And what that does, for those that don't know, it gives soccer education, gameplay to children of all ages with learning disabilities. And it's something that goes all the way back to 2019. So it's a 5-year-old deal. But what Top Soccer has done is it helps those with learning disabilities, physical, mental, emotional development, local youth. This, I thought, was another really cool addition to the three-dimensional approach for growing the game that you and Nitra and everybody down there at South Georgia Tormenta put together. So Top Soccer, what's it like to add that to what's going on down there in Statesboro?
It's the magic part of this. It's the most intimate connection that you get to have to wherever one lives. The very special athletes, of course. The brainchild for this for us is really our vice president for our academy in Brad Nine.
Mm-hmm.
The ability, we've been doing Top Soccer programming now for 4 or 5 years. The next level, though, we first when we announced our unified team, we had 9 athletes on site with us at the stadium on Friday. Wow. I think the juice that hit everybody once our first athletes started coming, we got them in the locker room. We had their pictures up on the scoreboard. We're playing the music. And listen, it was just a meet and greet. Everybody running around, kicking goals and being athletic. We had their names in the locker room. I think we got to feel as a staff for the first time about what that newest team under the Tormenta franchise will be and grow and listen, we have it sort of geared up to where us and Greenville will have 2 games every year, home and away. And
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, we hope that this will be our first year. We think we're going to be ready. And, it's under the unified games are under the umbrella of Special Olympics too. Mm-hmm. And so we want to do it.
I think Darin moved. He moved from his location. He's got to go back to where he was standing to wrap up his thoughts here. And that was going to be one of my questions, was the idea of unified teams in USL League One. And he mentioned what's going on with Greenville and Greenville Triumph, and the idea that they could do 2 matches a year under the Top Soccer and the unified umbrella there in League One. So very, very cool stuff there with South Georgia Tormenta as they continue to add to their portfolio as well. Oh, he had video. He had video momentarily. But no, I want to get Darin to wrap up this point about Top Soccer and what's going on with them before he gets to head out to practice and get ready for Open Cup and the matchup against Savannah Clovers, and then turn around and get Lex SC coming up on the weekend. And so really cool stuff going on down there in Tormenta. Like I said, I'm going to wait for Darin to try to loop back into the conversation and put a bow on the whole thing. But no, very, very cool stuff. And like I said, I wanted to ask about the Top Soccer stuff because of how it has continued to grow and work its way through. So DVT, you were talking about possibly doing a home and home or 2 matchups with Triumph Unified.
Can't wait to be able to do that, and to, sorry for the technical challenge there, but just getting another team under our umbrella. They visited it was just unbridled joy from our athletes. We all need more of that in our life, and it's going to be a big juice into the system, just a big fresh start. And quite frankly, I think we're going to be pretty good. That's the other fun part about it. Having the athletes on the field, pictures on the scoreboard, and we're just getting started with all this. We're still in recruitment and selecting the team piece. Special Olympics is a real important piece on the unified series, and so as us in Greenville get that piece right, we want to do it right, and we'll do a home and away series every year right after when we play for our Peach States Derby competitions. Listen, it's the fun part, and it's I think one of the more important umbrellas, the things underneath the Tormenta FC umbrella.
Yeah, the Peach States Unified Derby. Looking forward to that. And yeah, I could not let you go without asking about that. As always, Darin, thanks for dropping by. I know it's a very, very busy week there at South Georgia Tormenta. Wanted to catch you early in the season and having a multi-competition open week, a competition week with Open Cup and with League One. Busy times down there, and thanks for hanging out with us as you always do as one of our plus ones from the absolute beginning. Thanks for letting us continue to poke our head in the door and see what's going on down there in the borough.
Always a pleasure. We're just getting started on set pieces, so I got to go watch.
Set pieces. DVT, get out of here. And there he goes. So Darin Van Tassell, Grand Exalted Poobah, South Georgia Tormenta. And it's always great that we can call up Darin to catch up. But because of the conversation that we had last week with the USL to Roswell situation and the Soccer Federation bylaws about what you need to have when it comes to liquidity or notes or worth and all these kinds of things, I wanted to ask that question specifically and see if it was 25 plus 20 or if it was 25 and you're good for the other 20. So I think that's where we are. But yeah, so Unified, Open Cup, League One, stadium growth, new folks coming in USL, or at least they would like to here in the SDH footprint. So to be able to pick DVT's brain on these kinds of things, very, very cool. So half of the Grand Exalted Poobahs of South Georgia Tormenta and USL League One, Darin Van Tassell. It's always great to have Darin coming on the show. Okay, the point that I wanted to get into when it came to Major League Soccer, and the whiplash continues. Team of the week was announced, and the team of the match day was announced, and see if you can pick where I have the proverbial bone to pick with Major League Soccer. All right, so here we're going to work from the back. So in net, it's Matt Freeze from NYCFC. So Matt Freeze is there. And the 4-4-2 is the formation that they've done. Playoff Franco Escobar from Houston, Jack Elliott from Philly, Julio Cascante from Austin, Jake Davis from Sporting Kansas City. That's your back four. Midfield four. Gabriel Peck, Georgi Mihailovic from Colorado, Mateus Click from DC, Fafa Pico from Vancouver, and your two up top, Chicho Arango from RSL and Jamal from Atlanta United. It better have been Jamal. That was a part of this discussion. Your coach of the week, Peter Vermes. Always go front to back. I thought I'd go back to front. You start in net and you work your way forward. The bench, William Yarbrough from San Jose, DeAndre Yedlin from Cincy, Artur from Houston, Remy Voltaire from Sporting, Ryan Gauld from Vancouver, Evander from Portland, Hinestrosa from Crew, Jacob Schaffelberg from Nashville, and Lewis Morgan, as his tour continues to rage toward the top of the Golden Boot list, is with Red Bulls. That's your bench. I got a problem. And I know that Jarrett has a problem with it as well. Because when this list came out for team of the match day, we were like, somebody's missing. And it's Saba Lobjanidze. Saba doing all of the mileage that and the thing is that I'd really like to know, and I don't know how the list, I don't know who puts it together, first and foremost. I don't know who is ordained to piece this thing together on a weekly basis. I don't know. Having Jamal in there was a no-brainer. I mean, it better damn well have been Jamal up top with Chicho Arango. 5 goals between the two of them. Chicho gets a hat trick. Jamal gets 2 in 30 minutes on his birthday. So he better have been on the list. How Saba Lobjanidze is not on that list is what gets me. Morning, Harry. Morning, 4 card. And I'm glad, Abby, I could. And the only reason I know about Huey Magoo's is because there's one out 78 near Loganville, like you're heading to Athens. And so when we've done remotes and things like that and done games of the week, you pass by that Huey Magoo's out on 78 in Loganville. That's the only reason I know. I don't know who puts the list together. I don't know how they put it together. I mean, do they talk to each other? Is it independent? I've got my list. You got yours. Morning Dell. I don't know how this stuff is put together. I really don't. But not having Sabalob Janiza even on the bench is what gets me about this week in particular and makes me curious about the process in general. And like I said, I don't know what they do for their performance metrics. Do they look at SofaScore? Do they sit there and go, okay, well, so-and-so, if I've got a list, then it's going to be these guys, and this guy had a lower rating, so therefore he's out. I don't know how those things are put together. But in your midfield, Peck, Mihailovic, Kleek, Mateus Kleek, Fafa Pico. You went with a 4-4-2. On your bench, your midfielders, if you're going to go 4-4-2, I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You only end up with 8 on your bench, which is odd. So Yedlin, Artur, Remy Voltaire, Ryan Gauld, Evander, Inestrosa, Schaffelberg, and Lewis Morgan. To not even get on the bench. I mean, and here's how it was phrased in the article on the league website with specifically the midfielders. I'm just going to take the midfield section and read it. And here's what they said. Gabriel Peck opened his LA Galaxy account, lashing home the 1-0 winner against Seattle, off a setup from fellow new DP winger Joseph Paintsil. Similarly, club record signing Georgi Mihailovic found his breakthrough with 2 goals and an assist in the win over LAFC. Okay, so there's goals on the board. I get that. Peck and Mihailovic, you've scored. Okay, I get it. The 2 remaining midfield spots belong to Mateus Kleek and Fafa Pico. Pico had a goal and an assist. Okay, so if you're looking at it strictly from a goal and an assist standpoint, okay, Pico did more than Saba by scoring a goal, so Pico goes in. Kleek ran the show in a 1-0 win over CF Montreal. Okay. Good for you, I guess. So I'm like, how are these things pieced together? Someone please tell me how these things are pieced together. Like I said, are there conversations? Is this a groupthink exercise? And I know that we all have a tendency to look at shiny objects when it comes to this. So, I mean, if you look at it strictly from the goal scoring perspective, I get it. But here's what Saba did, and I'll go by SofaScore, 7.3. Okay, so he didn't get an 8 or anything like that. But here's what Saba did as he continues to run all over the place for Atlanta United. 90 minutes, 43 touches, 15 of 22 passing. 7 key passes on the day, 4 of 7 on crosses, 2 shots on target, 1 off target, 1 for 4 on his dribbles, 2 for 6 on ground duels, 0 for 1 in the air. Fouled once, 1 clearance, 1 block, 1 tackle. So he has both offensive and defensive statistics. No, he did not get on the score sheet. But when you look at the individuals that are there, I mean, if I had the chance, all right, so then now by comparison, so if somebody's got to go on, somebody's got to come off. So I'm looking at Mateus Kleek. At the bare minimum, if you're looking at starting 11, we'll go to the bench and we'll take a peek in a sec. So, all right, so Mateus Kleek, DC United, they won 1-0 over CF Montreal. So Kleek had an 8.4 with a yellow card. Kleek didn't get on the score sheet either. 61 touches, 77% passing, 5 key passes, 6 of 11 crosses. So he had 2 more crosses, but he also had 5 or 6 more attempts, 2 for 4 on his long balls, 3 big chances created, 1 for 2 on the dribble, 4 for 10 on the ground duels, 0 for 1 in the air. Lost possession 18 times. If you want to look at strict numbers from SofaScore. 2 fouls, fouled once, and he had no clearances, blocks, or picks, but he did have 2 tackles and 3 dribbles passed. But seriously, if you're looking at it from the perspective of just SofaScore, yeah, you'd sit there and go, oh, Cleek had an 8.4, and he had a yellow card, and Saba had a 7.3, and he didn't. And this is what, yeah, and Kefsey, that's I don't know why, and, it wouldn't surprise me, Kefsey, if he ended up, well, let's see. So the first goal, it might have been a deflection. That might be why, because as I play it back in my head, and we talked about it on the air yesterday, Saba sends it in with the left, and I think it deflects off a defender, and I think that resets the clock. I think that's what resets the clock in that, where it hits a defender, gets to Gigi, and then Gigi slams it in the net. So I think that when it gets deflected, they wipe it all off the board. So, and I mean, you could look at it as a match day, equivalency award or a history award for what Saba has been doing so far this season. I think it's safe to say that Saba has done more defensively for Atlanta United than Mateus Cleek has done for DC United in a defensive sense over the span of the season. So if you wanted to make it a season to date award, even if that's the way you were looking at something, I think that Saba's been overlooked here. The reserves, once again, Gall, Evander, Hinestrosa. All right, so let's look at Hinestrosa for, like I said, you're putting somebody in, you got to take somebody off. So Nashville and Columbus, 2-2 draw. Hinestrosa scored. So, by nature, Hinestrosa came off the bench and scored. So he came in and played 44 minutes and had a 7.1 with a goal. So Marino Hinestrosa played less minutes, scored a goal, and had a worse SofaScore rating than Saba Lobjanidze. But Hinestrosa, because he scored a goal, made it on the reserve side of the team of the match day. Gall, Evander, all right, so Schaffelberg, the resident pain in the butt for everybody when it comes to Nashville. Jacob Schaffelberg had a 6.9 if you're looking strictly at SofaScore. So let's look at Schaffelberg's numbers. Assist, 68% on his touches, key pass, 1 for 6 crossing, 0 for 2 on his long balls, 2 for 2 on ground duels, lost possession 13 times, fouled once, interception once, and a tackle. So, Jarrett, I'm going over team of the match day and wondering why in the Blue Hell Saba is not even a reserve, much less there for Mateus Cleek in the starting lineup. And as we do, if you want somebody in, you got to pull somebody out. So for me, at the very least, he would be making the reserve side for either Schaffelberg or Hinestrosa, and I'm making a point that he could also be there for Mateus Cleek in the starting 11 for DC. So, like I said, I was breaking down the numbers, and I'm like, why the hell isn't Saba on the team of the match day list? Jamal obviously needed to be, and Saba is not, and I'm confused.
Yeah, I thought I made this pretty evident yesterday as well. Look, Saba already is playing like a guy who wants to play for Georgia's national team, as we said yesterday.
Yeah.
Especially now that they're Euro bound.
Uh-huh.
But apparently that disrespect extends to MLS.
It's like, I don't know. I want to know who votes, and I want to know how they vote. I mean, for me,
I don't know.
Legitimately, to me, it just looks like shiny objects. Oh, you scored. Therefore, you must go on this board. So, I mean, it seems like it's a least common denominator that we're working from.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, man. I'm not sure how they do it exactly, but yeah, it's because he has 2 assists, and if you want to complain about the second one being a hockey assist, then don't count hockey assists. But as long as we're counting them, It's hockey assist is what it is. But if not for Chris Brady, he has a goal to go along with that at the end of the game too. Maybe that would have got him on the sheet. I don't know, man. It's annoying that he didn't get his flowers from the league, but at the same time, very happy for him. Very happy for him that he has hit the ground running the way he has in 2024.
Yeah. Is it the fact that he's a brunette, you think?
No.
But I think that what we've seen with Tristan and with Saba and with Gigi is this is what happens when you get the winter off. You actually get a break, regardless of how many weeks it is, how deep you go into a playoff picture or what have you. These are guys that came in the summer window. Their season was over. They got picked up again. That meant they had to keep playing. And so you knew they were going to hit a wall at some point. They're going to have, they're going to figure out how to get integrated with all these kinds of things. And then all of a sudden, oh, we're still playing. Oh, my God, I get a break. I get to spend the holidays and take it easy for a change. And so you get rest, you get acclimated in training camp, and you get to see what you can bring in. And you get to add, Bart Sliech to the mix. And so you're seeing this group being pieced together. It's amazing what happens when you get rest,
It is. We'll see what the whole thing looks like.
Yeah.
As the season goes along, because the early returns right now, I guess my early return for this team is it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
Thiago Almada hasn't fired on all cylinders yet. It kind of feels like it can be better, especially on the attacking side of things, which is great. So you want to see what the final product can look like.
Yep.
We'll just have to see what that looks like. You can't, but you also can't rush. You can't. You gotta. I think you still have to address it as like, hey, this is this is something that is going to have to evolve as the season goes along, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can be happy with what you have now and still want more, because I think Gonzalo Pineda makes that pretty evident when he does post game, where he talks about the things that went well, but also the things that they want to do better. You don't want to be in stressful situations like you were against Orlando, where you're having to preserve a lead, or in this game where it's 1-0 because you got something just before the break, where you had played really well before that point and you could have put yourself in a more comfortable position. So you want to be more clinical in those moments, but also I think at the same time, I think it's okay to be happy about the way defensively you've got 2 clean sheets at home, and the only goal you gave up at home was Carlos Heel doing Carlos Heel things.
Yes.
You have to clean up stuff on the road, but every team in MLS has to clean up stuff on the road. You get a chance to do it this week, and even this week, it's going to be weird. Like, it's going to be weird in the sense that your 3 road games will have been Christmas, Toronto in while forging the Northwest Passage with half your team missing,
the Iditarod,
and then going to play in Citi Field,
a slightly
larger postage stamp.
Yes.
So it's going to be as far as like road form, I'm not as bothered right now, because all 3 of these road games have weird things. Mm-hmm. The first one being the least weird. It's just that Columbus is that good.
Yes.
Let's call the spade a spade. Columbus is the class of the league. Mm-hmm. And that was, unfortunately for you, the first road game you had.
Hi. Welcome to your season.
Yeah. And then the Toronto game was weird. And then now you have to go play in kind of another weird situation. If you lose your first 3 road games, and those are your first 3 road games, I'm not hitting any panic buttons. I'm more annoyed than I am worried, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely it does.
But you do that. All that being said, mm-hmm. all of those words being said, mm-hmm. there will come a time, if you would like to win trophies this year,
yes,
there will come a time you're going to have to consistently win some games on the road. Mm-hmm. So go do that.
Yes. Accurate, and that would be a good first step at Citi Field, where you're going down the left field foul line. See, now the match this weekend, in as much as it's going to have Crooksey and Matty Lawrence, I imagine, on radio, it needs Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, and Keith Hernandez. It just does, because of what they do for Mets broadcasts. If you could have them like as an alternate broadcast over off to the side someplace on Apple, I think that actually would be pretty funny.
Ron Darling just being an absolute hell at the fact that, like, when in 2021, when he was just in hell at the idea of the Braves just mashing the living life out of the Dodgers. That was always fun.
Yes. Other matchups on the weekend, and once again, anybody's got anything on their mind, we're talking Open Cup, we're talking news of the day, we're talking the rest of the MLS results. CONCACAF Champions Hemispheric Extravaganza also kicks back in tonight, 2 matches, an early and a late. We'll get into that as well. Philadelphia beat Minnesota 2-0, and I don't know if this means that the Minnesota team that is regressing to the mean and being who we think they are on the road, or if this was just one of those things where you're
maybe so just for point of reference for this game, because if we're going to talk about teams missing guys, we talk about every team missing their guys,
right?
Because Toronto still missing guys, now they're missing Insigne. So it was fun to kind of laugh at Toronto, because Toronto had to play a game against a team that had most of their players, if not all of them. But Toronto still missing one of their DPs now.
Yes.
Minnesota in this game, Reynoso was not there because he is going to go get his green card.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is something that we have to factor into the equation,
Yeah. Quick note from Doug Robertson at training this morning. Gigi did not need an MRI. And much like the rest of us, he is day-to-day. He is not training today, by the way. Understand?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you go get an MRI, everything checks out. Then it's like, just take it easy, manage how you're going to be on a daily basis, and everything's cool. So I'm guessing today was more getting the MRI, and then however long that appointment was going to take was how long the appointment was going to take. And if you made it back for practice, okay. Otherwise, you're just going to be training on the side, maybe doing some bike work or something like that indoors a little later today. Colorado and LAFC. Georgie scored twice. LAFC, LAFC, it's waiting for Giroux. And that's where we are right now with them. But a 5-goal crazy out there with the rabid Prairie Dogs.
Hey, man. I guess my thing is with here's my thing with them.
Yes.
Because I know it's easy to jump on Colorado, because Colorado's gone so long without really having an existence and having an identity. They've just kind of floated along.
Yes.
But we're to a point now with Colorado where, like, you don't have to like their identity under Chris Armas, but they have one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't love it just because I'm like the Red Bulls thing doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
But they have an identity. Like, they have a plan. You don't have to love the plan. You don't have to think it's always going to work. They actually have a plan, which God bless you for it. Good job, Chris Armas and Colorado. Hopefully, because look, like, if there's anything we have ever learned about, like, that Red Bull style, it's that they're going to hit some really rough patches at some point during the season. It just is going to happen. That being said, I'm hoping they'll have the patience to kind of ride that out.
Patience and fans in Major League Soccer. I don't know about that.
Well, not even just the fans, but like the Colorado ownership. You have to have that. You have to have that patience to ride that out.
Stan Kroenke and his sons, since they've invested so much leading into this season in the past, I think they were just kind of aligned.
Frankly, you should, because you've invested so much.
They were a line item. They were a line item until this season, and so now I want to see how patient they are, considering what they've done by comparison to years of other non-investment years, which were a lot.
Well, we'll see we'll see how it unfolds for them. But I have more optimism for them than I do, say, San Jose.
Yeah,
Speaking of ownership, now the accusations that San Jose's ownership, who also owns the A's, is like sending minor leaguers down for supporting fan protests, which, buddy, that's a hill to die on.
Yeah, I mean, one of the it was 2 guys that were sent down. One of them
who was actually part of the last trade the Braves made when the Braves did their annual pillaging of the A's.
Yeah,
and he led the league and he led the American League in stolen bases last year.
Yeah, and the GM said that when they were sending him down, he needs more at bats. But apparently, to this point of the season, only 2 other players had more total bases than that guy did, and they're sending him down to AAA anyway. And the other guy they're sending down is legitimately injured and is trying to rehab. But yeah, the star of the show is the one that's getting questioned. Soto, I think, is who it is.
So, Del, this is one of my favorite topics.
Ooh, hot seat.
Yeah. And it's an awkward topic because it's one of those things where I like to discuss to figure out where everybody sits on who's on the hot seat, who's not.
Yeah.
I don't wish for people to get fired.
No.
But I'm fascinated by where we sit on hot seats.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do this.
All right, let's go to the bottom of the table. So let's go to the bottom half of the East and the bottom half of the West, because I think that if you are in the top half of your table in the standings, unless there's seriously something wrong inside the locker room itself, you're not going anywhere. So Charlotte's got Dean Smith. They're new. Montreal has Laurent Courtois. They're new. Which brings us to our buddy Gary Smith, who's currently 11th in the East with 7 points, 1-1-4 in your first 6. 4 draws in your first 6 matches. You have scored the sum total of 7 goals in 6 games. You've given up 11, most of them, or the 5 of them that were given up after, 2 of them after the red card that Joe Willis got, but 5 of them in the matchup against LAFC. So you've got in 6-5 or 11-6. But yeah, Nashville 4 draws in their first 6. What say you, Jared Smith?
Yeah, I think Gary he's not on the block straight away, but man, like you gotta be starting that. Like
they're keeping
he's on the watch.
Yeah,
we are not in a warning. We are in a watch. We're in the we've got the windows closed and we've got the weather channel on. We're not on the front porch looking out at the storm clouds yet, but we got the weather channel on.
We're not shooting video of the storm coming by the house. No, it's a potentially dangerous situation is what you're saying.
It's a potentially dangerous situation. My thing is that like Gary Smith's entire identity with that team has always been just to be absolutely miserable to play against.
Down the spine.
And they're not really miserable to play against right now, are they?
No, and Walker being injured hasn't helped you out either.
It hasn't helped you out. That should be considered. Also, I, being the petty son of a bitch that I am going to sit here and tell you that I got told by numerous people that injuries were not an excuse here when everybody was, struck deaf, dumb, and blind.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's it's not ideal. But but the thing is, like I said, they're not miserable to play against like they used to be. They're not holding on to leads. It's still Hani Mukhtar dependent most of the time. Yeah, it's not working the same way that it was. And the problem is with a system like that is when it's not working, it is not enjoyable. No. Even when it's working, it's a grind. And you'll get some fun like 3-1 wins where like you'll pop on the counter on people, score some set piece goals, have a good time. Hani Mukhtar is fun to watch on the counter, and that you should set the National Geographic music to his counterattacking runs. But when it's not working, it's not really enjoyable. And right now you're just not there. And Gary's not on the block, but we have the weather channel on. We are in watch status.
No doubt. Frank Klopas was named. He had the interim tag pulled at the end of the year, and so they're just sticking with Frank right now. 1-3-2, 6 points. They're part of that gaggle. It's got 6 points at the bottom. I think Frank's okay.
And I'm not worried. And like Caleb's not getting fired out of New England, I don't think, though.
No.
But that being said, like a bunch of people in New England are probably ready to burn things down after Bruce Arena was fired, and we never really had a good answer as to
why. No, we never did. And Richie Williams is the head coach of the Twos this year. And in the first interview that he did with our friends at Blazing Musket, who wanted to talk to Richie's like, I just want to focus on this season. I don't think we should focus on last season at all. I want to focus on this season and Revolution.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, great. I think that Caleb, just look. Let's say this, Dell. When Shooter McGavin's in here in the Twitch pitch, I think that's pretty much your baseline is what people think about the Rev state of affairs and Caleb Porter. Even though you're 1 point in your first 5 matches, and remember, New England, they're still going through hemispheric competitions.
Yeah.
So it's not we see this a lot where teams have to balance the regular season and the hemispheric play, and if your roster does not reflect anything other than a first choice deal, and then you're trying to scramble otherwise, that turns into a bit of an issue. And I think you're seeing that right now with Caleb. The other guy on the board in the East, I think if you're an Atlanta United fan, you want him to wait a week. You want the result at Citi Field to happen first involving Atlanta United before you say anything about Nick Cushing.
Yeah, but Nick Cushing's going to be Nick Cushing's got to be part of that conversation, man.
Oh, absolutely he does.
Dell Shooter is one of our drop-ins.
Yes.
On the Twitch pitch,
Yeah.
who is a New England fan, and he's not doing a work, he is doing a shoot.
Yes.
When it comes to New England Revolution.
Correct. Yeah, he is not a happy man.
Yeah, man, but like Nick Cushing, like I wasn't sure Nick Cushing should have been back this year, and then Nick Cushing has made it worse by being not great.
Oof. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're an Atlanta United fan, it's like let's just let that continue for another week. Let that continue at 7:40 on Saturday night at Citi Field. Get out of there, and then you can continue the discussion. NYCFC, y'all can do whatever y'all want. Just don't do it until 7 or till about 10 o'clock Saturday night if you are so inclined.
Mm-hmm.
West and 7 and 8. This is the group that we'll start with 7 points. And there's a lot of big ticket items in the West because Portland, Colorado, new coach, you're getting used to Chris Armas. Portland, you've got Neville, new coach, you're getting used to things. And you still don't know which Portland team you're going to be getting on a daily basis. Are you going to get the one that had the lead and lost it to DC at home, or are you going to get the one that puts numbers up like nobody's business? Let's start with Steve Cherundolo in LAFC. Right now, they're 9th, 7 points. They're a part of that group. 2-3-1. You've only scored 9 goals in 6 matches, and 5 of those happened in the game against Nashville. You take those out, you've only scored 4 goals in your other 5 matches. That's 0.8 matches. They're 0.8 goals per match outside of the blowout of Nashville. Steve Cherundolo, to me, is I got my hand in the air on that one. I'm like, you're 0-3 away from home. You ain't scoring outside of an outburst, and 2 of those came when you were a man up. Ever since, can we go back to last year and the exit in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, and they haven't been the same since? Can we go back that far?
You can if you want to. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's the fact that like it's such a different system now, and Dolo is doing things in a much more pragmatic way. But the problem is like to me, it seems like they haven't like once they've they haven't like figured out. They haven't like figured out what's like plan B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, plan B, I think traditionally is try and find somebody who's over the age of 35 that you can sign to an 18-month contract.
Yes. But plan B in terms of how you want to play.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. Like it seems like you haven't like gotten that locked down yet.
No. Because
once teams figured out like, oh, we just don't let them counter us. Like we're just going to limit their countering opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
Then yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have problems moving forward there, don't you, boys?
Mm-hmm. Yes. When folks just
but I don't think Cherundolo is under any like he's not getting fired if that's what we're getting at.
Is he in a PDS?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He won a title 2 years ago. You got you almost got to the promised land in CONCACAF Champions League last year. Like, I don't think we're there with him. I don't think that's fair. I just think the style's differently. They're going to have to make adjustments. And some of that also comes down to the front office and LA deciding that they only needed 15 players on their roster going into the year. And they were building it out as the season went along. And I get it. You want to build things out as the season goes along. But damn, man, at a certain point, you actually have to build it out.
Yes. So here was the starting 11 for the matchup against Colorado, and I'll go through that and the bench. Lloris in net. You allegedly played a 4-3-3, at least according to Opta. Palencia, Aaron Long, Murillo, and Ryan Hollingshead. That was your back line. Left to right midfield, Atuesta, Ilie, and Timothy Tillman. And then your front three, Denny Buwanga, Bogusz, who's playing really more of a false 9, and it's kind of like a 4-4-2. And then you had Oliveira, who's doing really well as a younger player so far. Early returns are good on him. And when you bring in Giroud, Bogusz will drop back probably and play more of a midfield position, so it might end up being more of a 4-4-2 when Giroud gets here in July. Your bench, Kai Kamara, Eddie Segura, Eric Duenas, Nathan Ordaz, Abraham Romero. Then you ended up with Luca Bombino. Man, you want to talk about a great defender name, Luca Bombino. And then also you got David Martinez. That was part of the discussion because he ended up with a second yellow in short order. So that was your bench. I mean, literally, you got guys who are, Kai Kamara, who's 107 years old, with his 11th Major League Soccer team. Segura, Duenas, Ordaz, Romero, Bombino, young kids, and Martinez and Kai Kamara. So you had a 7-person bench to go with your 11. And, I mean, you're really not putting the fear of your God in me with all that stuff. And you mentioned what you've got to do really defensively, and you hang LAFC up right now. I think that they got to figure some ish out, man. But Dolo, I don't think yet, but I think that,
they're not there yet. Yeah. I think it's unfair for them to say that they're there yet. That's just me.
Yeah.
You can be critical of them in the sense that it's easier to figure out what they're doing, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not there yet where I'm his head's not on a chopping block.
Yeah.
You can be critical of it and not think that his head's on a chopping block. It's fine.
Yeah. Bradley Carnell, not on the chopping block, but I think that this is the Red Bullion kind of a team that we had anticipated.
Hell no, is Bradley Carnell's not on a chopping block.
No.
They won the damn West last year.
Yeah. And
hell no.
They got 4 draws in their first 6, 11 goals scored. So they're going to Pfannenstiel and Carnell will figure things out. But I think the league has dialed itself back. This is the second time through the batting order for all caps.
Yeah.
And I think that the league is figuring out the pitcher here. The second time through the league for this pitcher, and I think that all caps got figured out in the playoffs. And now, how do they adjust to the adjustment? I think that's the biggest question.
Yeah. Again, they'll be fine.
Austin. That was the trendy one from ground zero of the 2024 season.
It was. Everybody decided very early on that everyone decided very, very early on that Austin would be the first one.
Mm-hmm. And so right now, 6 points. You're 11th. You're 1, 2, and 3. You've only scored 7 goals in 6 matches. There's talk, and Nico brought this up last week about Sebastian Driussi. Does he still want to stay in Austin? And, you're giving up a goal and a half. So Stuver et al. Are giving up 1.5, but you've only scored 7. And, Austin, you want to talk about figuring your ish out? Austin's got to figure their ish out.
They do. And it's unfortunately not as simple as just magically make things happen.
Yes.
So, but they've had to figure their ish out since last year. This isn't new.
No. And you think it's one guy here, one guy here, and you're still. They've still got to make some additions. I think they've still got to figure some things out when it comes to making the additions and how they integrate. I just wonder what the patience level is going to be because you have a new sporting director. And my guess is that this season with a new sporting director, first full season for a new sporting director that you bring in from Cite. And this is that year with the new boss. And we've all been in the jobs with the new boss where you're doing your thing and you think you're doing okay. Then the new boss comes in and the new boss has his or her philosophy and you've got to do things the new boss's way. And sometimes the new boss just wants to bring in their folks. And that's just the fact of life. So I'm thinking toward the end of the season, if things aren't improving, then you're going to see that transition away. But I don't think that it's fair to sit there and go, new boss, same old coach, most of the same roster, and we've made a couple of adjustments from ground zero. I don't think you can make that kind of an assessment because of a new boss in this situation that they've got going on.
To Emilio's question about San Jose, like San Jose's got like the problem is San Jose's ownership just hasn't like invested for them. Like,
no, and they're not investing in the Oakland A's either. So there's consistency.
There is consistency, but like you're not getting an investment. You're not getting an investment from your ownership. Like,
no,
they had there were times last year like watching them where I was like, this isn't a bad team.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't. They lost guys and they didn't really replace them the same way. And I'll be critical of them, but like at the same time, like I don't know what you want them. I don't know really what you want them to do. You know.
And I mean Lucci right now, because of what he is stuck with right now. Like I said, Lucci is stuck right now in that situation,
mm-hmm.
and they have only scored 7. They've given up 13. So they're giving up. By the way, I'm going to double check this, they are tied for most goals allowed this season with Chicago at 13.
They're also blowing leads at like an astronomical rate. Like no, they've had at least I think 2 of their last 3 games they've had a lead in the first half, and they have just yacked it up.
Yeah,
both times.
Yep. And so San Jose, I think that Lucci might end up being the one who, even though he may not be the problem,
he's going to be the sacrificial lamb when it's all said and done.
Lucci, I think, will be the sacrifice when it comes to San Jose, and John Fisher stomps his feet and is wondering why folks aren't going to PayPal except to see Bay FC, and they're not going to go see San Jose Earthquakes. Dallas and Nico Estevez, they're also with that 1 win in their first 5, giving up 2 goals a game. They've only scored 6, and they haven't won in their first 2 matches away from home. So, I mean, what kind of a patience level do you have with Nico Estevez and FC Dallas?
It's a good question. All of Texas is kind of a mess except for Houston, which is a really weird situation for us all to be in, I think, as fans.
Yep.
The idea that like Houston is the stable one.
Yeah.
Whoopsies.
Yes.
Didn't expect that.
Yes. You're stable. Hi. And then Schmetzer, and we'll bring this up with Nico on Thursday, but Schmetzer right now, Seattle, no wins in their first 5, 3 losses, 2 draws. They ain't scoring in 5 matches. They've only scored 4 goals. They've given up 7. So, obviously, they haven't won at home or on the road. They're 0-3 away from Lumen. But Schmetzer, 2 points, first 5 games, devastated by injuries and trying to basically wallpaper over what he can until he gets out the other side.
Yeah. Man, like here. So, with my thing with Schmetzer is I feel like he is a prime Pete Carroll kind of guy.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, if it doesn't work this year, you're not going to give him his walking papers after everything he's done for that organization.
Right.
You are going to, go to him and be like, hey, man, this ain't working.
You're going to encourage.
Yeah, it's time. It's time for us to it's time for us to change something up, man. We have to.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna tell him. You're not gonna kick him out the door.
No. Because of everything he's been to the organization, what he's done, all those things that we always hear about. Those coaches that are long tenured, that have done really well, that have a lot of emotional capital attached.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So if it's anything, it's going to be at the end of a year.
Yeah, and it will be a retirement kind of thing. Like I don't think you don't just blow out a guy like that who has meant that much.
Yeah.
To
So
the organization.
he will have his day at Lumen with X number of matches left in the season. Whenever that season is, he will get his rocking chair. They'll do the presentation at Lumen and all of that. I think that's what you're heading for when it comes to Schmetzer. Emilio says that Gonzalo would be the next manager for Seattle. I would have said that if. I would have said that if Garth Lagerwey.
I don't know, man.
I would have said that if Garth Lagerwey was still there, first and foremost. And you know that the force will be strong, because if that day comes, whenever that day comes, when Brian Schmetzer gets to sit in the rocking chair and he goes off into the sunset, the siren call will be made. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be made. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that because of Garth Lagerwey not being as high up in the organizational chain, since Garth is no longer there, basically, then what is the tie? He was brought up through Schmetzer and Garth, and they were all a part of that group going through. But
you would hope the answer is no. I think now, just because if for no other reason, and I know Gonzalo has his detractors in Atlanta, you have right now a team that has stability.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, because the alternative is being Manchester United and constantly having to figure out who's going to manage this year, who's going to clean up the mess this time around. And I don't want to be in that situation. And if that means hey, we gotta you're gonna go through some some tricky moments, then so damn be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have that stability, and I think right now he's good where he is.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That's one of those things I think that's easier to say here right now. That's okay. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like if that Seattle job comes open, because I think Seattle will also, as much as we associate Gonzo with the Seattle job, I think there's also the fact that he is his own person, and he is making his own career here. Mm-hmm. So you can feel like, as a manager, I got my start there. That was an important place for me, mm-hmm. but also, I've made my own life here in Atlanta.
Yeah. And, so Liga MX, I'm sure, would want to make the phone call too, if it was that kind of a situation. Emilio, don't know. Legitimately, Emilio's like, well, what if we finish 6th or 7th?
Okay. I don't know. That's a question you ask then, because it's the same thing when we talked about this in preseason about what happens if you underachieve. Every team has that question going into the season. Yeah. There's a couple of teams that don't.
Yeah.
Who might have brand new managers.
Yeah. Portland.
But everyone has that question.
Yeah.
Because everyone has different expectations. Yeah, if you finish 6th or 7th, you're going to have conversation. If LA finishes 6th or 7th, they're going to have conversations. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have different conversations based on what their expectations are and based on how they finish.
Yeah,
and it changes for every team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's just how it is.
Yeah, we know what Garth Lagerwey has maintained, that that he wants a home playoff game. And so you push toward that, and then you see where the growth is this season. And right now to sit there to put managers, we do this as kind of a hot button topic because there are serious problems in some of the franchises in Major League Soccer. And I think that, here specifically with Atlanta, you are showing the growth and what can be done. Once again, it's amazing what happens when you get a full training camp with folks and those folks aren't playing for 13 months straight, and you get to see what's going on here. Like I said, we know what Garth Lagerwey's expectation is. We know what Gonzalo Pineda's expectation is. We know what the guys' expectations are. They want to bring back, they want to bring back hardware. And, since I believe you're in the last year of a contract anyway with Gonzalo Pineda, I mean, all of these factors are going to come into play. But, where Atlanta is concerned, you're not in the bottom half of the table in the East. I mean, and right now you're sixth. But the thing is, you are literally one win, and you have. And if we want to get into this whole thing about if the playoffs started today, yeah, fine, all right, you're sixth. But also, you've also played one match less, and if you want to get into that kind of math, Miami's played 7 matches, and they're only 2 points ahead of you.
It is early in the season. It's hard to look at positions just because of the way the table is jumbled up. It's easier like 10 games from now on and get a better idea of what positions are.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's not like it's not a big deal. Like you figure it out as you go along.
Just let it grow.
Yeah, you let it grow. But I don't know that he would. I mean, and that's the thing is like, I don't know that he would want he would go to Seattle. I know some people will be great with that. Some people would not be. Yeah. But I mean, as for right now, like what you have is a situation where you have a manager. Everyone has managers, and you're trying to figure out, what's going to be best for your team. What's going to be best for pretty much every team, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're at a better gauge at two other points in the season. For teams at the top half of the table, like I said, it's easy for us, and that's why I specifically wanted to look at teams in the lower half of each conference, because it's easier to make those discussions right now since we're only 5 or 6 or 7 matches into the season.
Yeah, we do need to improve on the road. That much. Yeah, I mean, but
absolutely.
Like I said, my thing with the road is that the first 3 games you've played, the first 2 games you played, you've been weird.
Yeah.
And now you have to go to, for me, what is like still an embarrassing setup. You're getting it fixed. The league's getting it fixed, and that like NYC is getting a stadium.
Yes.
These first 3 games, I'm not as worried about. But yeah, when you start getting into May, June, those road games, you absolutely have to get stuff out of. 100%.
Yeah.
You have to go get wins in those games.
Yeah.
We'll see if they can. And that is going to be a gut check moment for this team. They're going to have to show something.
Yeah. And I mean, going into, all right, so let's go there. Let's look at the schedule and talk about those places where you're looking at, those games that Jared has spot shadowed, basically, for lack of a better phrase. All right. So, and remember, in June, you're also balancing out Copa America and the Olympics. And so, all right. So June, Audi Field, City Park, in a 3-day period. You have 3 matches in a week in June. Home to Houston. Go to DC. Go to St. Louis. You're looking at 3 matches in a week with that. Then you got a stretch in July where you are going from New England to RSL to Montreal. 3 matches in 10 days in July. So the 3rd, the 6th, and the 13th. So the 3rd and the 6th, New England and Salt Lake. That's going to be a tough run because you're flying from Boston or Providence to Salt Lake City. You're not coming back home. So you're staying out on the road. Then it is a handful of matches in the middle of July before the Olympic break in July and the Copa break and the League's Cup break. Sorry. So you've got that month where things are going on. And then in August, you've got the 2 matches late where you play LAG on the 24th of August, and then you come back home, and then you drive up to Charlotte on the 31st. And then it is this one stretch in September that you're looking at where you host Messi and friends in the midweek. You go to Red Bull Arena, and then you
Still annoying that we have to play them in the midweek. I want that to be a prime time.
Yeah, I know, really. And the games in September on the road, Red Bull Arena, and in Philly at Subaru Park in back-to-back weekends. So I think those are the ones that you're staring at that are going to be the challenges that you want to be challenged by later in the year?
Well, okay, so here's my thing.
Yes.
One thing you don't want to get into a situation is what you were last year.
Yeah.
And that situation was you had to go with a bunch of really tough road games and you had to go find something on the road. You don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to be having to like chase games on the road.
Mm-hmm. You don't. No, that would be
You don't want to be like in a situation where like, hey man, we need to get points so we can move up in the table and have a home playoff game, but we have to go to, Philadelphia, and we have to go to Cincinnati, we have to go to Orlando, we have to go do all these things. So when the road games you're supposed to win, and you were in position to win some of those last year and you didn't.
Yeah.
So go do it this year.
Yeah.
But we can sit here and talk about it until we're blue in the face.
Yeah. And so for me, I look at the halfway point, and then you look at the stretch run, Olympic break, Leagues Cup, that kind of a thing in the summer window. So those would be where I would be looking at those markers going forward. And Dell Shooter has entered our chat here on the Twitch pitch, our resident New England Revolution fan. Shooter, we were discussing, we were discussing folks on the chopping block, and this is where Shooter is like Chop Porter and Chop Richie Williams, who is the head coach of Revolution too. So that's where all of that is. And we figured, because Dell was asking Shooter, about you. Dell has not seen you, Shooter, here in the Twitch pitch, and so we would like to introduce our resident New England Revolution fan to our resident Charleston Battery fan in USL Championship, Dell Shooter Dell. So there you go. That is Shooter McGavin 81. Who is rarely happy about anything going on and hasn't really been happy for like 9 months straight because of everything that's been going on in New England. But Shooter actually is he actually beat he actually beat Happy in the Waterbury Open. There you go. And apparently there's going to be a sequel. I don't know what it's going to look like. My guess is that it's going straight to Netflix or whoever is going to piece it together. And it would be interesting to see what's up with the future there when it comes to Shooter McGavin on the course as opposed to Shooter off the course. We got matches to talk about tonight, and it is the confluence of tournaments. Like I said, we had Darin Van Tassell in hour number 1 to discuss what's happening tomorrow. We do have Open Cup matches tonight. And we also have the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza tonight. It is on FS1, 7 o'clock. Crew hosting Tigres in Columbus. That is going to be a fun one. The back end of the doubleheader for CONCACAF tonight is the Revs and Club America. Shooter, are you going? Shooter, what is your expectation about tonight? Considering that you only have 1 point in your first 5 matches, and I know that you're not happy about it. So,
I hope part of me hopes that New England does like the weird thing where they don't win a single damn league game, but somehow win CONCACAF Champions League.
There you go.
Like do that thing where like we've put all our eggs into the Champions League basket.
Yeah, well, but
let's see who notices.
But Sporting did that in Open Cup a couple of years ago.
Yes, do that.
They might as well. They were south of the playoff line, and they're like, screw it.
Hey, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and right now the straight line is shortest to get to a Champions League trophy. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Open Cup tonight, 7 o'clock. Richmond Kickers hosting Maryland Bobcats out of NISA. We do have NISA news. Well, at least we do. We have NISA statements by those who follow NISA. And we'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. Also, 7:30 at American Legion. It is Charlotte Independence hosting South Carolina United Heat, who denied the intra-Charlotte matchup in this round by knocking off Crown Legacy 1-0 on a PK in the previous round at like 90+5. And so you've got a bunch of normal dudes who come in to play for South Carolina United Heat, #Beauty of the Cup. And they're going to play Charlotte Independence tonight in League One. And so you end up with a Charlotte team that could have played to another Charlotte team, but South Carolina United Heat is playing tonight, and they're playing against Charlotte Independence. You've got Hudson River. See now, okay, so it's second division Hudson River in the Open Cup. It's NYCFC 2 and Red Bulls 2. It is at Belson, which I think is St. John's, if I'm not mistaken. It's on the campus of St. John's University. So Red Bulls 2, NYCFC 2, both in MLS Next Pro, both in the second division, but they're playing in the Open Cup tonight. So you got that. Loons 2 are hosting Michigan Stars. That one is at 8:30. And wrapping things up, as we said, it's the Revs and Club America out at Gillette. And that one is the 9 o'clock start in FS1 and 2 to NA. And I don't know how many of you follow Dan Creel on the Twitters, but Dan spends a lot of time looking at stuff in the lower divisions of men's soccer. And this came out, like I said, yesterday afternoon in News Dump territory. And it has to do with the opponent for South Georgia, Tormenta, in Open Cup tomorrow, Savannah Clovers. And Dan is saying that there is troubling financial news coming out of Clovers. Players will be making the trip to play South Georgia tomorrow. Unsure if they'll make the trip to face Michigan Stars in the NISA opener. So Dan, like I said, Dan has spent a lot of time in the lower divisions when it comes to the soccer scene here in the U.S. So we'll keep an eye on that. And now we add this to the list of questions that we hopefully get to ask, because as of right now, Friday at 10 o'clock, we should be being visited. We should get a visit from the hires up in NISA. Initially, it started out as a conversation involving our friends from Georgia Lions FCSC. And it now apparently might be adding to the discussion about Savannah Clovers. So when you have 9 teams in a league, 2 of them are in your footprint, and you have questions about 2 of those 2 clubs as you get ready for your season to start, there's going to be questions, and hopefully our friends from NISA will answer those questions as they get ready for their season, because I got a lot of questions, and we'll see how it comes to when teams are vetted, financials, those kinds of things, what the process is. That was initially supposed to be with Georgia Lions FCSC, and now it might end up including a conversation about the Savannah Clovers in addition to Georgia Lions FCSC. And Jarrett, that kind of rolls us into the idea of the matchup tomorrow. Tomorrow. And it has to do with our friends at Apotheos. And Apotheos were supposed to play Georgia Lions FCSC in the opening round of the Open Cup. Turned into a walkover because Georgia Lions apparently had 0 contact with the league, with U.S. Soccer, and with Apotheos. So Apotheos was ready to play a match in the opening round of the Open Cup. Georgia Lions FCSC was nowhere to be found. They apparently do exist, and they're in the NISA schedule. So if you were to go to the NISA website, you would see Georgia Lions FCSC. They would exist. And it appears that they are alternating their home locations from Silverbacks Park, which is a suburban Atlanta northeast suburbs park that used to house NPSL, NASL, and has a lot of youth games. For those of you not familiar with the footprint, that is the former home of the NASL club and the NPSL club. And other teams have played there, and you have a lot of community activity going on there, a lot of league action, a lot of pickup league stuff goes on there right now. But apparently, according to the NISA website, the Georgia Lions FCSC are alternating playing in that facility, and they're playing in Dalton, Georgia, which is where we had initially thought they'd relocated to on the whole. But apparently they're playing most of their home games in the suburban Atlanta facility at odd times, presumably so they don't have to pay the same rental fee that they would if they were a primetime payer of the facility, of the main stadium, and also 2 hours north in the city of Dalton. So hopefully we will get some answers, or at least some guidance from our friends at NISA, looking to have them on 10 o'clock Friday. We've had this discussion. We've locked this in. We said, this is your time slot. We're going to flip some of our content around so we can have either the commissioner or the executive vice president on the show, either John or Sean Pruch. I think that's what they're looking to have, to discuss what's going on as NISA is starting their season, and we have clubs that are in some various levels of disarray. And so I thought it was an important topic to discuss in a journalistic sense as to how things get to this point. And so that's where we are. So looking forward to hopefully having our friends from NISA on Friday in the 10 o'clock. So we push Weekend Whip around to the 10:30 block. And then probably what we'll do as a follow-up to that is schedule a 1v1 with Alice Queen from the Suburban Atlanta paper, where the Georgia Lions FCSC initially were when they were purchased back in January and announced as a part of NISA, and then all hell broke loose. So hopefully we'll track all that stuff down. Once again, here's your traffic for the day. 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, Calhoun and Sonoraville, that's on the network, and that is at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. That's on the live channel, and that's where we have all of our live matches. That's where you can listen to the high school action today. Hopefully we can get both matches, and I know we'll get the girls match in, but hopefully we can get the boys match in before we need 40 cubits of wood and to have a long drive back to HQ before we pick things back up tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tyler Pilgrim set to join us at 9:15. We still have reached out to a bunch of our friends in the Open Cup sector, and if they want to hop in, they can as well in the show on Wednesday, just to kind of preview the rest of the schedule in Open Cup. We got a lot of games on. We'll talk about them tomorrow. So Dylan Butler, hopefully the busiest man in the Northeast, can join us at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow night at 7:30, if you're out and hanging around, Apotheos and Chattanooga Red Wolves. I think that Jarrett, Maddie, and I are going to be there. We're going to cover the game, and we'll have reports for you afterwards, after the match, and then on Thursday as we get ready for the following round of Open Cup. Thursday, Jason will join us at 9:30. We'll talk She Believes, and we will talk with Nico Moreno, our friend from Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar, and get his thoughts on the Pacific perspective. And Friday, once again, it is our friends from Beyond Goals. Hopefully they have had a fantastic Easter. That's at 9:30. And if we have either the commissioner or the executive vice president of NISA, Sean or John Pruch, that'll be at 10 o'clock. And we can talk to them about what's going on before the league is set to kick in one more time. And that is supposed to be on the 6th. Not everybody's playing this weekend, but they're getting their 2024 season started. So we get to find out what's going on when it comes to NISA as a league, coming up hopefully Friday in the 10 o'clock hour. So we're going to keep an eye on everything going on in Open Cup, everything going on in CONCACAF. Obviously, tomorrow we got a lot of Open Cup as well, and we also have CONCACAF going on. Miami and Monterrey is going on at 8 o'clock on Wednesday night, and then you end up with the full slate of matches on Saturday. And, yeah, it'll be fun to catch up with Jason on Thursday to find out about She Believes and Atlanta United and NYCFC and all those other things and what he thinks about the season so far. So that's what you're staring at. Other stuff going on overseas, because we got a handful of minutes to go, and we got to find out what's going on, what to watch, where to watch it, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and all that kind of stuff. You got bits and pieces of news, and you actually do have some midweek Premier League action, which reminds me, I've got to fix my fantasy team. And so you got 5 kickoffs today to kind of get folks squared away when it comes to the number of matches. So it is Forest and Fulham at 2:30, along with Newcastle and Everton. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace at 2:45, along with Burnley and Wolves. At 3:15 Eastern, it is West Ham and Spurs. So see if there's anything newsy-wise that is going on overseas. It doesn't look like there's really a whole lot going on. They're just getting ready for the midweek matches in the Premier League, so fix your fantasy matches accordingly when it comes to all of that. Barcelona seems to be racing to secure the Ruben Amorim appointment, and it should cost them about £12 million to get the Sporting head coach, and why he is Liverpool's top target. It looks like Roberto De Zerbi and Julian Nagelsmann are the top two candidates for the Bayern job, according to our friends at Sky Germany, which means that should be Florian Plettenberg's territory. And let's see. So according to Eddie Howe, we talked about it yesterday. He's like, get your hands off Alexander Isak. That's not going to happen. But Newcastle has rekindled their interest in Aaron Ramsdale. Eddie Howe says Isak is not for sale this summer. Once again, everybody's got a price, especially if you're trying to meet profit and sustainability rules. So keep an eye on that. De Zerbi said that he is proud to coach Brighton, really lucky to work with his players, as he says that, like I said, as Bayern's chasing after him, I think that Brighton is going to try and make it worth his while, shall we say, when it comes to keeping Roberto De Zerbi there. Because remember, Brighton has been engaged in European football, and we know how much. This is the first time ever for Brighton, so it's difficult for them to manage, and they're learning out how to manage on the fly European football and in the Premier League. According to Pedro Sepulveda over at Sky, Sporting will not sell Victor Gyökeres for less than €100 million. So Arsenal and Chelsea are going to be chasing after him. 36 goals, 40 matches, 13 assists. Sporting isn't going to get rid of Gyökeres for anything less than 100. Sporting also would accept less than Amorim's release clause. Contact already made because he's the same agent as Luis Diaz. Good relationship between the agent and the club. Release clause of €30 million. Verbal agreement between Amorim's side and Sporting. If Liverpool brought an offer between 15 to 20, Sporting wouldn't fight the price of the release clause. So you've got that information there when it comes to Alex, biggest bust Isak. Hey, look, if you're trying to make PSR and somebody comes at you with a decent, I know you're probably going to make a loss on it, but if somebody comes at you with a decent price, you're probably going to end up having to take it, because you sitting there and saying no while you're trying to fight PSR and try to regain your bottom line when you're already 2/3 of the way there and you've got two-thirds of the cycle left. Darren Eales had admitted that they were, I think, only 30 or 35 million away from the 105 over a 3-year period. So they got to make some moves, and they've got to keep an eye on things over the next 2 years. Newcastle reignited their interest in Aaron Ramsdale. 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Braced for bids, meaning Isak from Arsenal and Spurs, potentially worth £100 million for Isak, if the Magpies need to raise funds to allow them to refresh their squad within FFP. That's what we just talked about, 3-letter paper. Spurs and Newcastle have been told they'll have to pay more than $50 million if they want to sign Morgan Gibbs-White from Forest. West Ham will have to pay at least £60 million if they want to sign Amadou Onana from Everton. Manchester City expected to put Calvin Phillips up for permanent transfer with an asking price of £30 million, 4-letter paper. Arsenal Newcastle had scouts watching Porto's Evan Nilsson at the weekend. Both have watched his club and teammate Argentine midfielder Alan Varela. Brighton is on the 3-man short list to replace Tuchel. We heard it was a 2. Liverpool, Spurs, AC Milan set to battle for the signature of Fulham defender Tosin Adarabioyo on a free 3-letter paper this summer. Uruguay winger Facundo Pellistri could leave United this summer after failing to become established in the first team since his move to Old Trafford in 2020. Real Madrid assessing the possibility of signing Chelsea and England right back Reece James. Expect any deal to be complicated because he's got 4 years left on his deal. Plymouth Argyle are considering Neil Warnock. Okay. Plymouth Argyle are considering Neil Warnock as a short-term replacement after the sacking of Ian Foster because they want a firefighter, with the club just 1 point, 1 place above the championship relegation spots. We saw how that worked at Aberdeen. Maybe Argyle will give him some folks. Barcelona defender Marcos Alonso expected to leave on a free this summer. Sergio Roberto could also depart for free. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Neymar plans to return to his native Brazil, and Santos in 25 when his contract when Al Hilal expires. That's from Goal. Barcelona have abandoned plans to make a move for Palmeiras and Brazil U17 prospect Esteval Willian, who is 16, who has been dubbed Messinho, leaving Chelsea and PSG as the main suitors. So that's your overseas gossip, rumor, and innuendo on the day. Now, what to watch, where to watch it, and where to go about it. All right, soccer on TV. As we click through to our friends at Soccer America, and they let us know what's going on. All right. Turkish Super League at 1:30, Galatasaray, Hatayspor. This is the beginning of the Copa Libertadores tonight. You can catch that on BN. Millonarios Flamengo, Deportivo Táchira, River Plate at 8:30, Universitario and LDU Quito is at 10. How do I get BN, you may ask? How do I get the Copa Libertadores on BN? You can go to our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here, and that gets you all of the BNs. It gets you Liga 1 Max, TIC, For the Fans, CDO, Nuestra Tele. I know I've forgotten some, but you really want to watch all the sicko stuff, then you can go to Fanatis, and they can really help you out. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. ESPN, the German Cup semis, 2:45, Saarbrücken and Kaiserslautern. We'll see if Saarbrücken's run can continue. FS1's got the CONCACAF Champions Cup. BN Español has the same action that we talked about, Turkish Super League and the Copa Libertadores. Deportes also has, ESPN Deportes also has the German Cup semi. Fox Deportes, Coupe de France semi at 2:45, Lyon and Valenciennes. The Plus has the Eredivisie at 2 with the PSV, League One at 3, Pompey and Derby County, FA Youth Cup at 2, Manchester City, Bristol City, German Cup on the Plus as well. Paramount Plus has Juve and Lazio, the first leg of the Coppa Italia semis. USsoccer.com has all of the Open Cup matches in the second round. You can also get them at MLSsoccer.com and USLsoccer.com. Once again, Richmond Kickers, Maryland Bobcats at 7, Charlotte Independent, South Carolina United Heat at 7:30, Hudson River Derby 2 in Open Cup round 2. NYCFC Red Bulls 2 at 7:30. Lubbock Matadors and our buddy Michael Hitchcock, they play 4OSC at 8:30. Loons 2, Michigan Stars at 8:30. Central Valley Fuego out of League One and El Farolito at 10:30. And the CONCACAF Champions Cup on VIX is the early game Crew and Tigres. All right, so let's see. What did I miss before we get out of here? Let's see. Nathan Akanji told The Guardian that Arsenal did tactical fouling against Manchester City. He wasn't happy about it. Well, tactical fouling happens, sir. Apparently you weren't ready for it. Everton now wants some explanations from officiating about a bias. Apparently Everton feels that there is a bias against them now with officiating, and they want answers, according to our friends at the Times. And the one other thing that I wanted to mention here in resetting our clocks back to zero when it comes to stupidity down here, and it came from the U17 tournament, sadly. Daniel Rebane, and he had this note, beat reporter for Area Sportsnet up in the Northeast. Yesterday, according to multiple reports, Red Bulls U17s moved on to the knockout stage of the GA Cup in their final match against Monterrey. Post-final whistle. Tempers flared. Rayados attempted to start a fight after being eliminated from the competition. And a part of that also, according to multiple people at the match, and this is from Rebane, he says, it sounds like players on Monterrey racially abused Red Bull U17 keeper Joshua Grant after certain words were said towards Grant. Cops had to get involved. Red Bulls, with their 2-1 win, eliminated Monterrey from the GA Cup. And if you look on Insta, Red Bull players have posted, "We're with you, Josh," and a heart after what happened with the Monterrey Red Bulls U17 match. And they're all saying that they stand with Josh after what happened. And so there you go. So we've set the billboard back to zero when it comes to stupidity down here, allegedly. Once again, remember, 5-7. It is the Tuesday night throwdown, and we're trying to race to the weather. So Calhoun at Sonoraville, 5-7. Girls at 5, boys at 7. Soccerdownhere.mixler.com, and we will catch up with the spring break version of soccer. So just because it's spring break doesn't mean that you ain't got stuff scheduled. So Calhoun and Sonoraville up in Northwest Georgia, we're going to be there 5-7, Maddie Cruz and myself. And Maddie, you'll have the girls game. I'll have the boys game. I'll be on for halftime of the girls match to let you know what's going on around the state. She'll be on halftime of the boys match. We might even talk about a little USWNT, because that is where Maddie was this morning, catching up on She Believes. And so She Believes coming up on Saturday. Oh, that was the other note. I'm going to do this once I find the notification really quickly, because it's cool. It is a very cool notification, and a lot of folks got the chance to see what's going on. As of 42 minutes ago, we get to talk about this. You got a lot to be proud of, soccer fan, because according to various sources, over 45,000 tickets have been sold for the doubleheader. You're nearing a new record for a non-World Cup or Olympics match for the women's national team. The number is 49,540. Right now, 45,000 plus have been sold for She Believes at Mercedes-Benz. And remember, Jason and Jess are going to call the U.S. match on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. But remember, if you get a ticket, that means you're there for both matches. You get a ticket for both matches, and you can set a record for a non-World Cup or Olympics match when it comes to soccer and attendance. You know, we still don't have a venue. We still don't have a decision on the 27 World Cup yet for the women. But anyway, over 45,000 sold so far for Mercedes-Benz. They've opened up the upper part of the tank. The 300 levels open at Mercedes-Benz. Nearing a new record, 49,540. That's what you're hunting for. Over 45,000 have been sold for Saturday. You get a ticket, you get to watch both. So make a day of it. Absolutely make a day of it. So really looking forward to it. But once again, thanks to our friends at US Soccer for being great sponsors with us here for the SDH matches of the week. ussoccer.com/tickets, ussoccer.com/tickets. Very, very cool stuff there. So there you go. That's a day. We went over, and I'm sorry about that. So 5-7, Calhoun and Sonoraville right there. Soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Eddie Cruz and myself will be there for those matches. Be back at it again at 9:05 tomorrow morning, and it'll be Tyler Pilgrim. It'll be you. It'll be Open Cup. It'll be CONCACAF. It'll be hopefully Dylan Butler, and we'll talk about things. It's the official term. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to Darin Van Tassell, South Georgia Tormenta, for everything that Darin was able to disclose and help us understand a little bit when it comes to putting a franchise together and all the different pieces this morning because of what's going on in USL, especially with what we learned last week about Roswell. So very, very cool stuff there. For everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John, for Maddie, who is up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground doing stuff on She Believes. We'll do it again 9:05 tomorrow morning, a little less than 22 hours from now. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. So mucha plata, y'all. Play it safe. We'll be back at it again 9:05 in the morning. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Very, very cool. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow.